Over the years, there have probably been thousands of books written on parenting, but the latest is thought to be the first of its kind. Teenagers Explained is a manual for parents of teenagers by teenagers, and young authors Megan Lovegrove and Louise Bedwell have come in to tell us more with their mums, Helen and Julia. Welcome to all of you. Louise, this book came about in quite an unusual fashion, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we heard about it through a competition run by the publishers, and we heard about it in our school. So we thought it seemed like an interesting idea, so we sent off writing samples and lots of different examples of our style of writing to see if we fitted the book best. And then we got some interviews and progress down the line, and it turns out we eventually won.
Megan, why do you think it's important that this book has been written for parents but by teenagers?
To improve the relationship between parents and teenagers, because there's quite a lot of stress there at the moment, and as teenagers, and speaking with loads of feedback from teenagers, we can sort of identify problems and help maintain that relationship.
Helen, of course, we were teenagers once upon a time, weren't we?
Yes,
so I'm
we
sure
were.
as parents we think we know what we're doing. But the problems that teenage girls face now are probably very different to the sort of things that we faced when we were younger. Life's changed, hasn't it?
I think so, especially at the age of the computer. I think that children use a lot of social networks, and they're always on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and they're things that we obviously didn't have.
And are
when we
you
were
finding
young.
the book useful for you?
Yes, I'd say it was quite an eye-opener reading it.
Was it?
Yes.
What was the most sort of shocking thing, do you think, about it?
I'm not really sure what was... I wasn't really shocked. I think I was more surprised by the amount of pressures that are put on young people nowadays. I think that was the main thing for me, and sort of especially with the social network side of things, because that's not something I know a great deal about.
We didn't really encounter that when we were growing up, did we?
No.
Oh, Julia, I sort of lie on the couch with my little 8-year-old, and we laugh about when she becomes a teenager and she's like, I'll still love you, Mummy, it'll all be the same, I won't turn into a horrible teenager. They change, don't they?
They do, yes, a great deal.
How have you watched your daughter change? I mean, I'm sure she's a good teenager, but, you know, the hormones kick in.
Well, they
and
do.
things
I think
are
they sort of
different,
drift away from you. They don't want to sort of tell you what they're doing. Like Louise, you know, shut herself in her bedroom, I guess, for a couple of years, and then gradually came out again and turned into a completely different person.
For a couple of years? What are you doing in there, Louise? I bet you weren't tidying, were you?
No.
Well, we've got 3 common questions, girls, that parents ask their teenagers and that often then sort of cause strife in the house. And we just wondered your advice. Megan, one of the things that causes a bit of strife with teenagers is that question, where are you going? How should parents deal with that?
Well, don't bombard them with, hundreds of questions before they leave. There's 3 basic things you should ask them: where they're going, when they'll be back, and probably who they're going with. And that's it. If you, put too much pressure on them and constantly question them, they just won't tell you where they're going.
But do you understand, as a teenager, that from the mum's point of view, it all probably just comes out of worry and concern and wanting to protect you and keep you safe?
You do understand, but it's still really quite annoying when you're trying... You may just be going somewhere quite simple, and you think, oh, it's not a big deal, I'm just going out with some friends. But your mum's constantly asking you loads of questions.
Well, Louise, we've got the next one up on the screen for you is, have you... Oh, I bet this is a contentious one. Have you got a boyfriend? How should they deal with that?
Well, I guess the first thing, obviously, don't insist on meeting them, because when you're 15, you're not getting married to them. It's not a big, serious relationship, so if you don't insist on meeting them, then if it does turn into something serious, then you probably will after a while anyway, so don't push the point. Probably don't trivialise it. So,
and definitely no teasing. No teasing allowed.
Although they're young, it's important to them. So it's a big deal for them. It's their first relationship.
The final one that actually you do have issues with before you get to the teen years is tidy your room. Yeah. Go on, Megan. What is your room tidy? No.
No.
How do we deal with that? Offer an incentive, it says there. Is that a good idea?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Food incentives.
Food is quite good. Or pocket money for chores, if you're into that sort of thing.
And just finally, do you think you've become better teenagers, having written the book and offered advice to you?
So you have to sort of analyse your own behaviour and realise how we can be quite difficult at times as well.
Like affects your parents.
Yeah. I bet you're not that bad teenagers. Can you save me a copy for about 7 years' time, please? That would be great. Thank you so much for coming in. Lovely to chat to you all.
Thank you.
Now, if you have a teenager in your house who you just don't understand because of their confusing mood swings or a completely different way of thinking, help could be at hand in the form of a parenting manual written by two schoolgirls from Sutton. They're teenagers themselves, so they should know what they're talking about on a range of topics aimed at reducing the gap between parents and their children. Well, one of the writers, Louise Bedwell, is with me now, 17 years old. You've written this book, Teenagers Explained. Why did you feel the need to write it? Because it's an age-old problem.
Yeah, well, the book was all about sort of reducing the gap between parents and teenagers and improving the relationship between them, because we know there's lots of different issues that is different nowadays, like social networking, and Facebook wasn't around for our parents and their generation. So through the book we hope to
And is
cover
it
those
based on
issues.
personal experience? This might get your parents in trouble now, but
yeah, it's a very honest book, and we also include lots of opinions of all of our friends and other teenagers, so it's really tell it as it is manual, I'd say.
And there are various sections, luring teenagers out of their bedrooms, which was quite good, computer time and text lingo, which for me was a revelation. I didn't know ROFL stands for rolling on the floor laughing, but I suppose it's a given for young people. What was the most fun chapter to write?
I'd say probably, well, there's a glossary at the end, which is sort of translated in Teen Talk to Parents, which was quite funny. And I think social networking was quite fun as well. And social life, because it's just given adults an insight into what it's like for us today.
And if there was one bit of advice which you think parents generally could do with when it comes to understanding teenagers, what do you think that would be?
I would say that parents have a tendency to be quite overprotective or patronising or overbearing, and being a teenager is all about sort of discovering your independence and maturity. So give them space, be there for them, but give them space to make their own mistakes and be there as a sort of pillar of support for them to always have to rely on.
Good advice indeed. I've just got to really quickly ask you, when you get older, you're going to write a book called Parents Explained.
Maybe version 2.
Could be the sequel. Louise, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Finally, it's that age-old question, how do you deal with teenagers? Well, many manuals have been written, many parents remain clueless. But the answers could lie with two South London schoolgirls who've written their own guide. It's called Teenagers Explained. Our reporter Liz Wickham has been to find out if the advice the girls are dishing out to mums and dads is any good.
No! Oh, that is so unfair!
Mum.
Confrontation versus manipulation, and that's on the rare occasion a teenager comes out of his room, or so it seems in many a traumatised family. But something amazing happened today in a Sutton bookshop. The mystery of the teenage mind was revealed, harmlessly nestling among the romances, vampires and action-adventure stories. It's all the work of two 17-year-olds who've written the first ever teenage parent training manual.
How many other books are there about teenagers written by teenagers? I mean, all the other ones I think are by psychiatrists that are probably about 50 years old. So I thought it would be really good for us to give a real teenager's perspective on life nowadays for us.
So how does a geriatric of 50 spot a teen in trouble?
Well, we said they'll probably become quite reclusive, probably like keep away. And I know that's quite normal for some teenagers, but if it's happening more than normal, quite often if there's trouble at school or stuff, they may take sick days. It's quite small things like changes in routine and changes in personality.
It soon became clear that even adults could see the sense.
I like the bit on the word on nagging, because I am very prone to nagging, I have to say. But I think it's good. It sort of says it's wrong to start with, but later on it says, well, actually you can do a little bit of it, but just not too much. So
particularly like the bit on the virtual world and the mobile phones, and I thought that was really useful, you know, not to interfere with teenagers' phones, take it off them and monitor them, because they need their own privacy as well as we do. We wouldn't like it.
Oh, cheers, Perry. I'm in para. Sorted.
So, back to communication breakdown. Boys have to be the worst.
I've been in my room most of the week, listening to Oasis records. I know all the words.
But the book does have a helpful glossary of current words and phrases for our understanding, but in no circumstances to be used by anyone over 18.
Parents need to read this, teenagers need to read this. It's just such a good guide. I'm trying to get my mum to buy one, so she'll understand me better.
Because we really had to analyse our own behaviour, we found that we could be quite difficult at times, and it made us realise that a lot of the times our parents are just worried about us and want us to be safe.
And why is that? because parents were once teenagers too. That's why they worry. Liz Wickham, London Tonight, Sutton.
And that is it. Our late bulletin is right after the ITV News at 10. The ITV News at 6:30 is on next. For now, from everyone on the London team, bye-bye.